let's assume I'm a 5-year-old who wants to understand the structure of matter. So let's take an ordinary object. Let's take this Lego block. If I try to break this down further and further into molecules and atoms and even smaller pieces, as I keep breaking this block down, what do I see?
Well, you've half answered the question already, right? I mean, it's certainly true. As you break it down, you will discover that the fundamental ingredients of matter are atoms. And by matter, we should already take a moment. By matter, what do we mean? We mean ordinary stuff.
Right.
When we start using the word matter in other contexts, it might get confusing because people use it in different ways. But at least for ordinary things around us, they are all made from atoms. And the only thing we encounter that's not made from atoms is light. So our ordinary world is basically shaped by those two things, atoms and light. And we could leave it at that and just talk about how atoms interact with each other and do all of chemistry and biology and many other things, and we would be fine. And we wouldn't have to go any further. And so for a 5-year-old, I probably would stop there.
Okay.
Unless it was a particularly insistent 5-year-old, such as myself.
Yeah.
And in that case, I would talk about the fact that atoms too have a structure. They're not the fundamental ingredients of the world. They're not the bricks out of which everything is made. And on the outside of atoms are particles, and I would use the word particles for a 5-year-old, called electrons. And in the center of an atom, very, very small center, is something called the atomic nucleus, which in turn is made from particles called protons and neutrons. And again, I would probably stop there for the 7-year-old. But the particularly insistent 5-year-old or 7-year-old would then get a tour of a proton or a neutron, which is a very complicated place. And I would tell them that, well, just as there are electrons on the outside of an atom, and those are believed to be elementary particles, basic building blocks of the universe, inside protons and neutrons, one finds particles called quarks and particles called gluons, which are also believed to be elementary ingredients of the universe. And I would probably leave it at that. I would leave out all sorts of subtleties, which of course, for a 15-year-old, I might consider adding. But, you know, the basic idea that the elementary particles out of which we and all ordinary matter are made are atoms which are organized as electrons on the outside and particles made of quarks and gluons on the inside. That's the basic structure of ordinary matter. There's a lot more in the universe. And part of the story of 20th century physics was discovering that there's a lot more. Quarks and gluons themselves weren't even understood and discovered until the 1970s, so they're a fairly recent addition. And electrons were only discovered in some sense in the 1890s, so this is pretty recent history. Humans have not known these things for very long, and there are still many elements about them that we are in the process of getting straight.